Hello, everyone. I am Brady Bridges, and I'm the broker and owner of Reside Real Estate here in Fort Worth, Texas. I want to welcome you to another episode of Real Talk with Reside Real Estate. We are a top producing team here in Fort Worth, Texas, and we want this podcast to be a resource for anyone looking to learn more about real estate and the great city of Fort Worth, Texas. All right, today I'm joined by Zach Overturf. He runs League Property Management here in Fort Worth. Originally born in California, but he spent the majority of his adult years in Houston. Zach made his way home to Fort Worth after graduating from Stephen F. Austin. He lives here in Fort Worth with his wife, Noelle, and he has two kids, Ollie and Lily. Enjoys spending time outdoors, running, playing pickleball, or going on adventures to test his limits. Zach got his license in 2013 and joined the exciting world of real estate. And after learning the ropes and gaining experience, he started League Property Management in 2017. Zach's focus is on the investment side of real estate and using it as a tool to help his clients. Zach, thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
So Zach, go ahead and tell us kind of about you. I know you're an investor. I was really excited about having you come on because everyone that comes on that's in a different area of real estate with me always has something to bring. And I work with a lot of investors, so I know that's your world. So kind of tell us about what you do and how you got into it.
Yeah. So like you said, Zach Overturf, broker partner of League Property Management. We're going into our fifth year of business. We've got just about over 300 doors, 11 full-time employees, 2 property managers. We've got a full-time in-house maintenance staff. Primary areas of focus are Tarrant County, but we also go to Parker, Hood, and Johnson. What I think is different about me and unique is, I'm not like an online coach or someone who, doesn't drink their own Kool-Aid, right? Like everything I'm going to talk about or tell you is something that I'm doing myself. I buy my own investment properties, lease them out, and then depending on our exit strategy, sell or exchange those for something else in 2 to 5 years. Yeah.
And what I found just consistently with my own business is investors feel much more comfortable with people that actually have skin in the game and know what they're doing. I mean, do you find that to be the case as well?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when I tell people that I own my own, it's, kind of more eye-opening. They're like, oh, okay, you actually know what you're doing and you've done it yourself and you can kind of have a proven model.
So you obviously didn't jump right into property management. So you got your license. Did you do that for your own personal investments to start? Or was that did you want to do traditional real estate and just found you love the investment side?
Yeah. So my degree was in child and family development and I minored in psychology. And when I got here in Fort Worth in 2013, there just wasn't many job opportunities to teach. And, I had a mentor at the time that was in real estate, selling luxury real estate actually over in the Mira Vista area. And so, she told me, hey, you want to come and buy and sell some real estate? And I said, sure, that looks pretty and shiny. And I think I'd enjoy that. And I enjoy people, enjoy properties and buying and selling real estate. So jumped into that with her. And what I found is I did not like the traditional sense of buying and selling homes. I did not care about where you would put your Christmas tree or Jimmy and Tommy, upstairs. And just didn't do it for me. But what I did love, I love the people and interacting with those people. And most of those folks had either gained their wealth or amassed their wealth through real estate and through real estate investment specifically, whether it be some commercial space or...
I'm sure if you were in the luxury world, that was...
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. It's a very, very common thing.
How'd you make your money? Oh, well, I own real estate.
Yeah, exactly. So, like I said, whenever I talk to them, kind of going through those avenues, I started helping them buying and selling and repositioning some of their properties. And what I found, though, the need isn't just to help them buy and sell, but it was what do you do after the fact, is maintaining those properties. And in Fort Worth, there just wasn't a lot of property management companies, or if there were, they weren't doing it well. So I just saw that as an opportunity and niche in the market that I could slide into and be great.
Yeah. And I don't know if you'd agree with this. One of the things that I think is really cool about Fort Worth, especially Fort Worth proper, people really love local branded companies.
Oh, like absolutely.
The big companies, whether it, like League where you work is some of my favorite guys, some of the best people over there. Like people love working with local brokerages, local companies. And I think that's really unique about Fort Worth, especially in the way we market ourselves and how we help people.
Oh, absolutely. My joke is Fort Worth loves its Fort Worth. Right?
Oh, yeah. Which is great. I mean, I love that we support each other.
Absolutely.
So kind of tell me what does a property manager do?
Yeah, great question. So, I'll kind of just start from the beginning. So, property, identifying a property that's going to make a good rental, right? Running what's called a pro forma and just seeing if that property is going to pencil out how the way you think. So you have purchase price, rehab price, carrying costs, and then what do we think that monthly rent will be?
So you have people coming to you from the very beginning. Like you get calls, somebody doesn't have a property even, and they're like, what do we need to do?
Right. Or, like y'all have done with us, you give me a call and say, hey, this guy has his property under contract. He's got some questions and, most folks do their due diligence and y'all do a great job, finding those properties and giving them the best idea of what that property's worth and what it's going to rent. But also popping those into a pro forma and just say, hey, year on year, this is what you're expected to make. This is what we think your total equity gain is going to be at the end of 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. And then really whatever those clients' goals are, right? Some want to just have a 401k nest egg because maybe they're self-employed, or some want, to get out of their traditional job and they want to be supported on, on these investment properties. And
I don't know if you find a lot of times people have no idea what those goals are.
Oh yeah, that's usually what it is.
I just want to buy an investment property.
Yeah. I seen it on HGTV and I think it's cool and I want to get involved somehow. Yeah.
So kind of for us, it's different, right? I've self-managed a lot of mine, which I really need to call you because it sucks half the time self-managing, but so let's just say I found a property or I worked with somebody, found a property. I call you.
Right.
What would be the next step? Like to jump in with you guys, what would you say you guys do?
Yeah.
For that person that's identified, found a property, and they're ready to hand it off to you?
Yeah. So we're going to assist them with getting that property rent ready. So we're going to walk through it and say, hey, we would recommend making these small changes, maybe updating the countertops or updating the flooring just to maximize those rent returns. But if the property's already ready to go, then we're going to just assist them with finding a qualified tenant. That's one of the biggest areas that I think people lack in, is that good tenant screening and finding a good quality tenant. Cause, you spend all this money buying a property and fixing it up. And then, if you just find the first person with, cash in their hand, it's just not a good start to a relationship. So,
and I don't know if you've seen this lately on some of the ones that my family owns that I handle. There's a lot of fraud going on these, the fake pay stubs. So
they're getting good. They're getting clever. If they would put that energy and attitude towards a legit career, it'd be a better.
So how does that screening process work? What do y'all do to screen the tenants? What are the criteria? How does that, is it a standardized process just across the board?
Yeah. It has to be, just because of fair housing and things like that. It's a very standardized, which if you're not familiarized with that, you can't discriminate on certain things. So, for us, it's going to be proof of employment. It's calling those employers or getting those pay stubs really. And if there is something shady, we'll do a tax return even. But then it's also prior, residence info. That is the one thing that shocks me is, the amount of tenants that we have. I rarely get rental check requests. I rarely get other landlords asking, hey, how is this tenant? And that's a thing that, just blows my mind because I want to know where they previously rented from. Did they leave it in good condition when they left? Were they respectful? Were they easy to deal with? When a problem did arise, how did they handle it? Then, we also do credit check, and then background check.
So from turn time, somebody applies, how long does it take for you to typically screen somebody in?
It just depends what kind of work they're in, but typically 24 hours. Now, if they work for the government or something else, it's a little bit harder to get that information. But
so you said you manage 300 doors, right? So what type of properties it is? Are they mainly single family homes? Do you have apartments?
Yeah.
Multifamily? Is it all of the above?
Yeah, it's a mix, primarily single family, but we do have a few multifamily small apartment complexes, less than 30 doors in those properties, and then a few commercial spaces.
Do y'all do any HOA management?
We do not. That's, I thought about
just a whole different ballgame?
It's a whole different thing. Yeah, I'd have to set up a whole different process, really have a whole separate staff for that.
Okay.
So.
Interesting. Do you have to have any kind of certification besides just your license to do property management?
So you have to be a broker. That's the biggest hurdle that you have to get through. And then there's other, things you have to do, like setting up certain bank accounts and all that. But as far as certifications, no. I mean, anyone that's a broker can run a property management company, and then
just have to be partially insane.
Yes, you do. Yeah, absolutely.
So what does an average day look like for you? So you get up in the morning, what?
Oh man, usually it's a triage. So I, look at emails, phone calls, anything I missed overnight. Recently we had a property that, there's a domestic violence suit, in a neighboring property, not the one that we managed. And, the husband shot a gun through the wall and it hit our duplex. And,
oh my gosh.
Yeah. So it was waking up to that. And we're running out there, making sure
text message to get.
Everyone's okay, making sure police reports filed, that kind of thing. But for me personally, it's more managing my staff and then, working on the business and company. I'm always wanting to improve, areas of our company and property management and the service that we provide for our clients. But, our property managers, I mean, they're running around to properties. They're making calls with clients, tenants. I mean, it's a really involved process of just from obtaining a property all the way through, unfortunately, evictions or whatever we've got to do.
Sure.
Yeah.
So how does y'all's fee get built in? Is it like on the, obviously I know how it works, but for people that are looking at doing it, because I have people all the time that want a property manager. So how do they get paid? What does that look like? Yeah.
So we normally collect a percentage of 1 month's rent as a leasing fee. And that's if the property's vacant and you're hiring us to procure a tenant. And then, if the property's already leased, then we do charge, a monthly management fee, and it's typically based on the percentage of the rent. Okay. However, for some of our larger clients, sometimes or commercial clients, sometimes it's just a flat fee.
Okay. So if they have multiple properties or things like that,
Right. Or for you, I'd give you a good deal.
Yeah. Well, might need to talk after this. So, how do you communicate with the landlords? I know there's all kinds of softwares, but how often are you talking to the people that actually own the homes, keeping in the loop? When are you calling them about every single thing that comes up, or is there?
It just depends. Some landlords, like to be more involved. Typically it's the ones that have the one-off, hey, this was my mom's house and I want to rent it. And they like to be really involved. And we do try to, coddle those relationships or, fit those specific needs. But most of our clients, they like to check in once a month or something really big happens, like, something expensive, water heater, HVAC, roof, all that kind of thing. But primarily we, respond back through email and phone. Those are usually the two best forms of communication. And most of our investors don't want to be bothered, though. That's why they're hiring us.
Sure.
They don't want to know all the nitty gritty. They just like to know, hey, give me a 10,000 feet overview. And it's like, well,
as long as the check comes into my bank account and the house isn't burned down.
Yep.
No, I think it's very valuable what you guys do, especially me being in the business. It's a lot easier for me to handle our own right now, but sometimes it's whenever it seems like, and I don't know if this is the way with 300 doors, I imagine is, but you think it'll be great for a long time. Then one issue comes up and then every house has an issue at the same time.
Yeah. It's always at the most inconvenient time, right? I mean, I've got quite a few clients that they manage their own, and it's because they have the time, it's, they don't mind taking the midnight phone call. They don't mind, spending 10, 20 hours looking for vendors or client, roofers, HVAC, carpet cleaning, all that.
So you've done flips for yourself as well, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So this is something I talked with Luke as well.
Yeah.
So for all these people that are wanting to get into buying investment property or doing flips, what is the best piece of advice that you would give them? You've done this a while now. You've probably, especially flipping, learned some hard lessons.
Yeah.
So like I know what box that I try to put people in with investment property. What is your recommendation for somebody that's brand new wanting to buy an investment property?
Sure. I feel like there's a lot of fear in the market right now. But my number one thing is buy right. I mean, that's when you make all your money, is when you buy the property. Real estate for the most part is pretty forgiving, and you can hold. And, if you
with time, everything.
With time, time heals all, right? But it's buying right, man. And finding that deal. And, sometimes different wholesalers or different folks, sometimes, they promise a certain ARV. It's wise for you to do your own research and not, lean so heavily on other people, because different markets, different streets, even let alone in Fort Worth. I mean, but other markets, Dallas and all that. I mean, streets really, vary in price,
just where both of our offices are. If you get 2 or 3 streets from those, it's a totally different ballgame.
Right. Well, it's like, I'm in Arlington Heights, and it's like, well, are you really?
No, I think, that's probably the most, I've been getting asked for the past 2 years, just consistently. People wanted to buy rental houses, and it's got to fit. The person has to be in a position to actually do it. But I've seen a lot of people just in the past 6 years I've doing this, have gotten really burned by doing exactly what you said. They go and look at a wholesale property, buy it, thinking they're going to make $200,000, and it's not even worth what they paid for it.
Right.
So what mistakes do you see? I guess we already went over that. What mistakes do you see in? Is it, I guess, that people aren't buying right? Yeah,
that's usually what it is they're not buying right, or they don't have a sense of urgency. Every day that market, or every day that property isn't, on the market being sold or being rented, or whatever your strategy is a day lost, right? And every minute has a dollar equated to it, because interest costs money. It compounds daily, utilities, property tax, insurance. I mean, it just starts tacking up.
If you have nothing come in, it's just a money sack.
It's a money pit, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So what do you love about living in Fort Worth?
Oh man, I think it's what you mentioned earlier. I mean, Fort Worth is such this small town. It's big business, but small businesses, right? Like, it's a lot of boutique offices, and it's a lot of mom and pop restaurants. And again, it's the quality of people here that I love, and I'm just drawn to. Like, I have no desire to go back to Houston or California or any of these other places that you're just another random person. I mean, people really care about you here, and I think that's shown in the amount of growth that we've had, but also in the amount of small businesses that we have.
Absolutely.
And,
So what are you seeing, just kind of wrapping up, what are you seeing within the Fort Worth market, just from real estate view, rental view? What are your opinions going into this next year? How do you feel about things?
Sure, man. I think right now is a great time to buy. I mean, cash is king, right? Interest rates are still high, but some people smarter than me are saying in this next year that it's probably going to go down to maybe 5.5. So if you buy now and you rent and kind of do the strategies that I was talking about earlier, you could be in a really good position to refi, and then get some cheaper debt on that property, and, have a higher cash flow.
Yeah, I think, you obviously work with a lot of really big investors.
Sure.
The rates that they're at today, they don't really scare a lot of those people at all.
No.
Because they know the appreciation gain of what they bought, 5 or 6 years ago to where it is today. Zach, thanks so much for coming on.
Absolutely.
Really appreciate your insight. And how can people get a hold of you if they have more questions?
Yeah, they can jump on our website. It's www.leaguepm.com, or they can give us a call at 817-631-3233.
And I'll post your info on our blog where we post this.
Cool.
But that's all the time we have today. This was Real Talk with Reside. Zach Overturf here, and thank you for listening.